Remember when September meant more than just pumpkin spice lattes and football season? There was a time when our grandparents viewed September as the gateway to a second growing season, a chance to fill the pantry with fresh vegetables that would carry them through winter. Today, I'm sharing 20 September crops that your grandma religiously planted this time of year, and why you absolutely should too. Garlic. If there's one crop that defined old-school fall gardening, it's garlic. Your grandparents wouldn't dream of letting September pass without getting their garlic in the ground. Unlike most vegetables, garlic needs that long winter dormancy to develop properly. Planted in September, harvest it next summer. The patience required suited that generation perfectly. They understood that good things take time. Garlic planted in September develops strong roots before winter sets in, then explodes with growth in early spring. Your grandparents likely saved their biggest, best cloves for planting, understanding that quality seed produces quality crops. Plant individual cloves 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart, with the pointed end facing up. The beauty of garlic is that it's practically maintenance-free. Plant it, mulch it, and forget it until spring. As an added bonus, many pests avoid garlic, so your grandparents often planted it throughout the garden as a natural pest deterrent. There's something deeply satisfying about growing a crop that connects you directly to your grandparents' gardening traditions. Mache, corn salad. Your grandparents might have called it corn salad or lamb's lettuce, but this delicate green was a secret weapon in their winter garden arsenal. Mache has a distinctive creamy texture and mild nutty flavor that made it prized in winter salads when other greens were long gone. What made it especially valuable was its incredible cold hardiness. It can survive temperatures down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit without protection. Sow mache seeds in shallow rows about 8 inches apart, barely covering them with soil. Your grandparents knew that mache germinates best in cool soil, making September the perfect planting time. Once established, it forms small rosettes of spoon-shaped leaves that can be harvested whole or by picking the outer leaves. The beauty of mache is that it practically takes care of itself. It needs minimal fertilizer, resists most pests and diseases, and will even self-seed for the following year if allowed. In your grandparents' day, having fresh salad greens in January wasn't a luxury. It was simply good planning with crops like mache. Claytonia, winter purslane. Also known as miner's lettuce, Claytonia was a clever addition to your grandparents' September garden. This native North American plant earned its nickname during the gold rush when miners ate it to prevent scurvy thanks to its high vitamin C content. Your grandparents valued Claytonia for its distinctive heart-shaped leaves and its ability to thrive in cool, damp conditions when other greens struggled. Sow Claytonia seeds in September, barely covering them with soil, and space rows about 8 inches apart. Once established, thin plants to about 3 inches apart. Your grandparents appreciated that Claytonia needs almost no care. It resists pests, requires minimal fertilizer, and actually prefers the cooler, shorter days of late fall and winter. The tender leaves have a mild, slightly sweet flavor that brightens winter salads. As a bonus, in spring it produces delicate white flowers that are also edible. Many grandparents allowed Claytonia to self-seed, creating a perpetual patch that returned year after year with no effort, the kind of practical gardening that defined their generation. Asian greens. Mizuna, Mibuna, Komatsuna. While they might sound exotic today, Asian greens like Mizuna, Mibuna, and Komatsuna were practical additions to your grandparents' September garden. These fast-growing greens filled the gap between summer's end and winter's arrival, providing fresh vegetables when little else was producing. Your grandparents valued these greens for their distinctive flavors, ranging from mild to peppery, and their ability to withstand light frosts. Sow Asian green seeds in September in well-prepared soil, covering them lightly and keeping the soil consistently moist until germination. Your grandparents likely grew these greens in succession, planting small batches every few weeks to ensure a continuous harvest. The beauty of Asian greens is their cut-and-come-again nature. Harvest the outer leaves, and they continue producing from the center. With minimal protection, like a cold frame or row cover, these greens can produce all winter in milder climates. Your resourceful grandparents probably saved seeds from the best plants, selecting for cold hardiness and flavor over generations. Brussels sprouts. Those sweet, nutty Brussels sprouts that showed up on your grandparents' holiday table were likely planted in September. Unlike most vegetables, Brussels sprouts actually improve with frost. The cold converts starches to sugars, resulting in sweeter, more flavorful sprouts. Your grandparents valued this crop not just for its flavor, but for its long harvest window. Sprouts can be harvested from the bottom of the stalk upward as they mature, providing fresh vegetables for months. Start Brussels sprout seeds indoors about 4 to 6 weeks before transplanting them into the garden in September. Space plants about 2 feet apart to allow proper development. Your grandparents knew that patience was key with this crop. It can take 3 to 4 months from transplant to harvest, but the wait is worth it. Varieties like Long Island Improved were favorites for their cold hardiness and productivity. In milder regions, Brussels sprout plants can stand in the garden all winter, providing fresh sprouts on demand, nature's refrigerator that required no electricity. Radicchio. The deep crimson heads of Radicchio that brightened winter salads weren't just for show. They were a practical September planting that your Italian grandparents or neighbors swore by. This striking vegetable undergoes a remarkable transformation in cold weather, developing a complex bittersweet flavor that adds character to winter meals. Your grandparents valued Radicchio not just for its taste, but for its visual appeal in the winter garden when little else showed color. Sow Radicchio seeds in September, covering them lightly with soil and spacing plants about 8 to 10 inches apart after thinning. Your grandparents understood that Radicchio needs cold temperatures to develop its characteristic tight heads and red coloration. Planted too early, it remains loose and green. The beauty of Radicchio is its versatility. The leaves can be used in salads, grilled, or added to risottos and pastas. With minimal protection, Radicchio can be harvested throughout winter in Zone 7 and warmer, providing fresh vegetables when the garden is otherwise dormant. Rutabagas. Before they became a forgotten vegetable, rutabagas were a staple in your grandparents' root cellar. These large, yellow-fleshed roots gained particular importance during the World Wars and Great Depression, when their long storage life and nutritional density made them invaluable. Your grandparents valued rutabagas not just for their practicality, but for their sweet, earthy flavor that improved with storage. Direct sow rutabaga seeds in September, about ½ an inch deep and 4 to 6 inches apart. Your grandparents knew that rutabagas develop their best flavor when they mature in cool weather. Hot temperatures make them woody and bitter. The beauty of rutabagas is their storage capacity. Properly harvested and stored in cool, humid conditions, like your grandparents' root cellar, they'll keep for months. Unlike their cousin the turnip, rutabagas have a natural sweetness that made them versatile in the kitchen. Your grandparents likely used them in everything from soups and stews to casseroles and even desserts during lean times. Parsnips. Those sweet, nutty parsnips that flavored your grandparents' winter soups and stews were likely planted in September. These forgotten root vegetables were once a staple before potatoes gained popularity, prized for their natural sweetness that develops after frost. Your grandparents valued parsnips not just for their flavor, but for their storage method. They could be left in the ground all winter and harvested as needed, even from frozen soil. Direct sow parsnip seeds in September, about ½ an inch deep and 3 to 4 inches apart. Parsnip seeds are notoriously slow to germinate. Your patient grandparents knew to keep the soil consistently moist for up to 3 weeks while waiting for seedlings to appear. The beauty of parsnips is their transformation after frost. Cold temperatures convert starches to sugars, resulting in roots so sweet they were once used in desserts before sugar was readily available. In all but the coldest regions, parsnips can be left in the ground all winter, protected with a layer of mulch. Your grandparents' version of season extension without plastic or electricity. Fenugreek. Before it became an exotic spice in the grocery store, fenugreek was a practical September planting in many immigrant gardens. This versatile plant serves double duty, the leaves as a vegetable and the seeds as a spice with a distinctive maple-like aroma. Your grandparents valued fenugreek not just for its culinary uses, but for its medicinal properties, traditionally used to boost milk production in nursing mothers and to help manage blood sugar. Soak fenugreek seeds for a few hours before sowing to improve germination. Plant them ½ inch deep, spacing them 1 to 3 inches apart. Your grandparents knew that fenugreek grows quickly. The leaves can be harvested in just 3 to 4 weeks, making it one of the fastest producers in the fall garden. The beauty of fenugreek is its adaptability. The tender leaves can be used like spinach in cooking, while the mature seeds add depth to curries and spice blends. With minimal protection, fenugreek can produce until the first hard freeze, providing fresh greens when other vegetables are finishing their season. Land cress, American cress. Before watercress became a gourmet item, your grandparents likely grew land cress, also called American cress, in their September garden. This practical alternative offers the same peppery flavor as watercress, but without requiring running water to grow. Your grandparents valued land cress not just for its taste, but for its incredible vitamin content. It was a traditional spring tonic after winter's limited diet. Sow land cress seeds in September in shallow rows about 12 inches apart. Once seedlings emerge, thin them to about 6 inches apart. Your grandparents appreciated that land cress is virtually trouble-free. It resists most pests and diseases and requires minimal care. The beauty of land cress is its cold hardiness. It can survive temperatures down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit without protection, providing fresh greens throughout winter in many regions. Like many old-time crops, land cress will self-seed if allowed, creating a perpetual patch that returns year after year. The kind of low-maintenance gardening your practical grandparents preferred. Kohlrabi. With its alien-like appearance, kohlrabi might seem like a modern vegetable, but it was actually a practical addition to your grandparents' September garden. This unusual member of the cabbage family develops a swollen above-ground stem that tastes like a sweet, mild turnip with the crispness of an apple. Your grandparents valued kohlrabi not just for its unique flavor, but for its quick maturity. Most varieties are ready to harvest in just 45 to 60 days. Sow kohlrabi seeds in September, about ½ inch deep and 4 to 6 inches apart. Your grandparents knew that kohlrabi develops its best flavor and texture in cool weather. Hot temperatures make it woody and bitter. The beauty of kohlrabi is its versatility. The bulb can be eaten raw in salads, roasted, or added to soups and stews, while the leaves are perfectly edible as cooking greens. With minimal protection, kohlrabi can be harvested well into winter in many regions, providing a fresh, crisp vegetable when little else is available. Daikon radish. Long before they appeared in trendy restaurants, daikon radishes were a practical September planting in many immigrant gardens. These giant white radishes, which can grow up to 18 inches long, were valued not just for their mild, slightly sweet flavor, but for their ability to break up compacted soil with their deep taproots. Your grandparents appreciated daikon's dual purpose, food for the family and improvement for the garden. Direct sow daikon seeds in September, about ½ inch deep and 4 to 6 inches apart. Your grandparents knew that daikon develops its best flavor in cool weather. Hot temperatures make it pithy and excessively spicy. The beauty of daikon is its storage capacity, properly harvested and stored in cool, humid conditions, like your grandparents' root cellar. They'll keep for months. In Asian traditions that influenced many American gardens, daikon was often pickled or dried for winter use, providing essential vitamins when fresh produce was scarce. As an added bonus, any daikon left in the ground over winter will break down and enrich the soil for the following season, a natural form of green manure. Swiss chard. The rainbow-stemmed Swiss chard that brightened your grandparents' fall garden wasn't just ornamental, it was one of the most practical vegetables they grew. Remarkably cold-hardy down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, September-planted chard often survived the entire winter in milder regions. Your grandparents valued chard not just for its beauty, but for its incredible productivity. A small patch could provide continuous harvests from fall through spring. Direct sow chard seeds about ½ an inch deep, spacing plants about 12 inches apart after thinning. Your grandparents likely harvested the outer leaves continuously, allowing the center to keep producing. A single planting could provide greens for 6 to 8 months in Zone 7 and warmer. The stems were often prepared separately from the leaves, providing 2 distinct vegetables from one plant, something your waste-conscious grandparents certainly appreciated. With minimal protection from extreme cold, Swiss chard becomes a perpetual vegetable machine, producing nutritious greens when little else is growing. Collard greens. Long before kale became fashionable, collard greens were the cold weather staple in your grandparents' garden. Incredibly hardy down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, September-planted collards could survive snow and continue producing through winter in many regions. Your grandparents valued collards not just for their cold tolerance, but for their incredible nutrition. These greens provided vital vitamins during the lean winter months when fresh produce was scarce. Direct sow collard seeds about ¼ inch deep, spacing plants 12 to 18 inches apart after thinning. Your grandparents understood that collards actually improve in flavor after a frost. The cold triggers the conversion of starches to sugars, making the leaves sweeter and more tender. Unlike more delicate greens, collards could be harvested even under a blanket of snow, providing fresh vegetables when the garden was otherwise dormant. Traditional preparation methods, slow cooked with a bit of pork for flavor, transformed these sturdy greens into comfort food that sustained families through winter. Leeks. Those sweet, mild leeks that flavored your grandparents' winter soups weren't just for show. They were a practical September planting that provided fresh allium flavor when onions were in storage. Unlike their onion cousins, leeks are incredibly cold-hardy, with many varieties surviving temperatures down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit without protection. Your grandparents valued leeks not just for their flavor, but for their long harvest window. They can be harvested throughout winter in many regions. Start leek seeds indoors about 8 to 10 weeks before transplanting them into the garden in September. Plant them in trenches about 6 inches deep, gradually filling in the trench as the plants grow to blanch the stems. Your grandparents knew that leeks develop their best flavor in cool weather. The cold sweetens them and makes them more tender. Varieties like King Richard and Giant Musselburgh were favorites for their cold hardiness and productivity. In all but the coldest regions, leeks can stand in the garden all winter, providing fresh harvest on demand, your grandparents' version of refrigeration without electricity. Escarole. Before pre-washed salad mixes, your Italian grandparents or neighbors likely grew escarole in their September garden. This broad-leaved chicory relative develops a distinctive bittersweet flavor that adds character to winter soups and salads. Your grandparents valued escarole not just for its taste, but for its cold hardiness. It can survive temperatures down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit without protection. Sow escarole seeds in September, about ¼ inch deep and 10 to 12 inches apart after thinning. Your grandparents knew that escarole develops its best flavor in cool weather. Hot temperatures make it excessively bitter. The beauty of escarole is its versatility. The outer leaves can be harvested for cooking, while the blanched inner leaves provide a milder flavor for salads. Traditional Italian-American dishes like escarole and beans, scarola e fagioli, were winter staples, providing both nutrition and comfort during the cold months. With minimal protection, escarole can be harvested throughout winter in zones 7 and warmer, providing fresh greens when the garden is otherwise dormant. Endive. Those curly, blanched endive leaves that added bitterness to your grandparents' winter salads weren't imported from Europe. They were likely grown right in the September garden. This sophisticated-looking vegetable was actually a practical addition, valued not just for its distinctive flavor, but for its cold hardiness. It can survive temperatures down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit without protection. Your grandparents appreciated Endive's ability to add interest to winter meals when fresh produce options were limited. Sow endive seeds in September, about a 1/4 inch deep and 10 to 12 inches apart after thinning. Your grandparents knew that endive, like its cousin escarole, develops its best flavor in cool weather. The traditional blanching technique, tying the outer leaves together or covering the plant with an inverted pot for the last 2 to 3 weeks before harvest, was a clever way to reduce bitterness and create the pale, tender hearts. This labor-intensive process reflected your grandparents' commitment to quality food, even in winter's scarcity. With minimal protection, endive can be harvested throughout winter in milder regions, providing fresh salad greens when little else is growing. Arugula. While it might sound fancy today, arugula, sometimes called rocket, was a practical September planting for many of our grandparents, especially those with European heritage. This peppery green germinates quickly and thrives in the cooler temperatures of fall, providing zesty salad greens when little else is growing. What made arugula particularly valuable was its ability to grow with almost no light, perfect for those short, often overcast days of late fall. Scatter arugula seeds thinly and cover with just an 1/8 inch of soil. It grows so quickly that you can be harvesting baby leaves in as little as 21 days. Your grandparents likely valued arugula for its cut-and-come-again nature. Harvest the outer leaves and it continues producing until a hard freeze. Even better, in zones 7 and warmer, arugula often survives the winter with minimal protection, providing the first fresh greens of spring. For those with limited space, arugula grows beautifully in containers, making it perfect for a doorstep garden that provides fresh greens long after the main garden has finished. Cilantro. Before it became a controversial herb that people either love or hate, cilantro was a practical September planting for many of our grandparents. Unlike its summer behavior, when it bolts to seed at the slightest provocation, fall-planted cilantro grows lush and leafy for weeks or even months. Your grandparents knew that cilantro is remarkably cold-hardy, surviving temperatures well below freezing. Some varieties can withstand temperatures down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Direct sow cilantro seeds about a 1/4 inch deep, or start them indoors if your September temperatures are still quite warm. The slow-bolting varieties like Santo were favorites of previous generations because they provided a longer harvest window. Your grandparents likely valued cilantro not just for its distinctive flavor, but for its dual-purpose nature: the leaves for fresh eating and the seeds, coriander, for spice. By allowing some plants to flower and set seed, they ensured a continuous supply, with seeds naturally dropping to produce new plants the following year, a self-perpetuating garden that required minimal effort. Kale. Before it became a superfood, kale was a practical staple in your grandparents' fall garden. September-planted kale is remarkably frost-resistant, surviving temperatures down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit without protection. Those who lived through leaner times valued kale for its incredible productivity. A few plants could feed a family all winter long. What your grandparents understood was that kale actually improves in flavor after a frost, as the cold triggers the plant to convert starches to sugars, nature's antifreeze that makes the leaves sweeter. Plant kale seeds a 1/4 inch deep, with plants spaced 12 inches apart and rows 18 inches apart. Once established, you can start harvesting the outer leaves when the plant has about 4 sets of leaves, allowing the center to continue producing. With a simple cold frame or row cover, your grandparents could harvest kale straight through January and February, providing vital nutrients when fresh produce was scarce. Which of these fall favorites will you be adding to your garden this year? If you enjoyed this video and picked up some practical growing tips along the way, hit that subscribe button and give this video a well-deserved hype. Your garden and your grandma would approve.